In 1986 at Adelaide, Australia, an exploded tire on his Williams cost Mansell a sure shot at the title, while Senna finished fourth. In 1989 in Portugal, Mansell overshot his Ferrari pit. He was disqualified, but not before a crash with Senna brought Mansell a suspension and killed any hopes of a championship. This year, Mansell returned to Portugal with the Williams team, and again, his title hopes evaporated in the pits. A bungled tire change ended in a lost wheel. His mechanics rushed to his aid, while Mansell sat helplessly, watching his championship hopes fade once again. 20 laps later, the black flag waved over Mansell's number. While Mansell has struggled, Ayrton Senna has flourished. Mansell has won no titles, while Senna has won 2. Today, he can raise his total to 3. One year from the 25th Summer Olympic Games, Barcelona, Spain is opening a new athletic facility each month. But this month's debutante was built for auto racing and may celebrate a World Driving Championship in its very first event, the Grand Prix of Spain. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to the brand new Circuit de Catalunya, just outside Barcelona. Now, we've all heard the childish riddle about how the nail cost the shoe, which cost the horse, which cost the general, which cost the war, which cost the kingdom. This, arguably, is the nail that cost Nigel Mansell the World Championship. It's a lug nut that holds the wheels on a car capable of going from 0 to 100 miles an hour and back to 0 in just 6 seconds. A week ago in Estoril, Portugal, Mansell came into the pits leading the Portuguese Grand Prix, a victory he needed to stay with Brazilian Ayrton Senna for the World Championship. But a lug nut cross-threaded at the right rear wheel, the team miscommunicated, sent Nigel on his way, and about 100 feet later, the wheels literally came off his title shot. But it's not quite over. The points coming into Spain show Senna with a 24-point lead over Mansell, with a maximum of 30 to be won in the last 3 races. If Senna can hold Mansell within 4 points today, it's his championship. With me to call the action once again, ESPN analyst David Hobbs. And David, making everybody's job tougher is the fact that this is a brand new track.
It is, Bob, and a magnificent one at that. Just 3 weeks ago, there was grave doubts as to whether we'd be racing here in Spain. But much to the driver's delight, when we got here, everything was finished. Well, nearly everything. The track itself is finished, and it is terrific. 13 corners in 2.9 miles, so it's quite a nice long lap. Very smooth and extremely safe. Quite fast, too. Pole position yesterday, just a tick under 135 miles an hour. Everybody likes it. The new circuit's usually a leveler. Well, they didn't level it out all that much this morning in the rain. Nigel Mansell was clearly quicker than Ayrton Senna, who was down in 7th spot this morning for some reason or other. But, of course, this World Championship is not just about the 2 main protagonists, Senna and Mansell. There's a lot of other people involved, too. And with more on that, let's go down to John Bisignano in the pits.
Here in Spain, McLaren is making a huge effort. They've come with 5 cars and over 50 crew members trying to deliver the knockout punch. This is spare number 3. But it's not just the glitz and glory of the Drivers' Championship that brings about the priorities. The Constructors' Championships to these teams is just as important. And a mere 11 points separate McLaren over Williams. It's the Constructors' Championship that Honda wants to win, that Renault wants to win. It's the Constructors' Championship that allows every team member to make a contribution towards the victory. In 1991, the Constructors' Championship will come right down to the wire. And here in Spain, that wire is being stretched to the limit.
Thank you, John. Barcelona, in the heart of the Spanish Catalunya region, is the next home of the Summer Olympic Games. 300 days from today, this stadium in Montjuic Park will be filled for the opening ceremonies. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain is brought to you by... Welcome back to Barcelona, Spain, the land of the matadors, most of whom do better than our young cartoon friend here. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, and John Bisignano with you as we make final preparations for the Grand Prix of Spain. It's a damp day after morning rains, temperature about 68 degrees. There'll be a 5 to 10 mile an hour breeze in the drivers' faces on the start-finish straightaway. Right now, let's take a look at the way they'll line up for this 14th round of the championship with our brute starting grid. On the pole, Austrian Gerhard Berger in the McLaren Honda, his 7th career pole at a lap just under 135 miles an hour. Next to him, Nigel Mansell of Great Britain, the man on the spot, racing on a bad right ankle, hurt in a football match yesterday afternoon. Inside row 2, Ayrton Senna of Brazil in the McLaren Honda, out of the top 5 in the morning warm-up, as David mentioned. Next to him, the winner in Portugal, Riccardo Patrese of Italy in the Williams Renault. On row 3 will be young Michael Michael Schumacher of Germany in the Benetton Ford, 11th in the morning warm-up. Next to Alain Prost of France in the Ferrari. His last victory came a year ago in this race. Row 4, Jean Alesi of France in the second Ferrari, 9th in the morning warm-up. Next to him, Ivan Capelli of Italy in the Leighton House with Ilmore Power, 8th in this morning's race test. Row 5 will be Emanuele Pirro of Italy in the Dallara Judd, next to Nelson Piquet of Brazil in the Benetton Ford. The three-time world champion was second quickest this morning. Row 6, Martin Brundle of Great Britain, next to countryman Mark Blundell in their twin Brabham Yamahas. Row 7 will be Maurizio Gugelmin of Brazil in the Leighton House, next to the Tyrrell Honda V10 of Stefano Modena of Italy. Row 8 will be J.J. Leto of Finland, a big Finnish contingent in the crowd today for the Dallara driver. Gianni Morbidelli of Italy in the Minardi Ferrari will be at his elbow. Row 9, Andrea De Cesaris of Italy in the Jordan Ford, next to Satoru Nakajima of Japan, continuing his farewell tour in Formula One with Tyrrell. Row 10, Pierluigi Martini of Italy in the second Minardi, next to the Jordan Ford of young Alessandro Zanardi of Italy, making his Formula One debut. Row 11, Mika Hakkinen of Finland in the Lotus Judd, next to the Fun Metal Ford of Gabriele Tarquini of Italy, in for Olivier Griard, who was fired after last week's race in Portugal. Row 12, Eric Renard of France in the LaRousse Lola Ford, next to the footwork of Michele Alboreto of Italy. The final row, number 13, Eric Comas of Belgium, celebrating his birthday yesterday. He is now 21 years of age, and a shocking fourth quick in the warm-up for Ligier. His teammate Terry Boutsen of Belgium will be next to him. Those who failed to qualify, Aguri Suzuki of Japan, headed for the footwork team next year, we understand. Also, Nicola Dorini of Italy with the Modena team Lamborghini. Mikel Partels of Germany failed in his fourth try to qualify for Lotus Judd, and Eric Van de Poel of Belgium also failed. Those who failed to pre-qualify in Friday morning's early session, Alex Caffi of Italy in the footwork, Fabrizio Barbazza, also Italian in the AGS, and Olivier Griard, who moved over to the AGS team for this race. He failed to pre-qualify. And for all those fans of young Portuguese Pedro Chavez with the Coloni team, who has failed to get out of pre-qualifying all year, he quit the team on Thursday morning. David, now let's take a closer look at this 2.9-mile racetrack. It is spectacular.
It certainly has got a great setting here up just outside of Barcelona. There you see a map of it, 13 corners, although you could make a case for saying there's 17 really. Turn 1 and 2 and the beginning of 3, you go into there in third gear and then go up through the gearbox, that long right-hander. Brake hard for that fourth right-hander there. Now we're going downhill into the very slow left-hand corner there. These group of corners here, it ends there just before the most exciting bit, which is the first part of the way that the map shows now. That's a very fast right-hander, and then that right-left sweep is dynamite. This here is a very slow entry to this group of corners, accelerate all the way through, and as they come downhill again to this last sweep onto the straight, fifth gear, 145, 150 miles an hour as they cross the finish line, up to about 180 as they go into turn 1. Fast, but very, very slippery, and even more slippery today with all that rain overnight. Most of the drivers had some pretty caustic comments to make about the slipperiness of the surface this morning, but they're going to have to fight it, so turn 1 could be pretty exciting this afternoon.
Okay, let's get down to John Bizignano for his comments on final preparations. Take it away, John.
Bob and David, the grid is actually in pretty good shape. No problems with McLaren and Ferrari. They were just standing around looking at their cars, hoping that they stay in the shape that they started out on the warm-up. Everything very smooth for those two teams. Most of the work was done in the Williams garage. An awful lot of work on setup to Nigel's car, and Patrese had a new differential put into his machinery. Also, the Benetton team had an awful lot of work. PK, they had a very late motor change. They changed the motor in 1 hour and 45 minutes, and they fixed a smaller wing to his car out onto the grid. Zanardi, his first Grand Prix, they have replaced the fuel cell in that car. Brundle, he had a misfire coming to the grid. They replaced all the plugs and the black box, but listen for a misfire out of that particular Brabham. It is a team manager's nightmare down here. Everyone left the grid on rain tires, but just when some people wanted to change the slicks, it started to rain. It's a nightmare down here for the team managers and the drivers. As you said, it's a green track, and it's really going to be slick.
All right, thank you very much, John. You are on board right now with Jean Alesi in the Ferrari, and you can see that the track to the left, very shiny, very, very wet, very slick. To the right, it has dried out. A couple of support races have dried a little bit of the line, but then we got another quick shower, and right now, as John mentioned, it is a toss-up out there.
This is that tight left. You see, gave it a bit of welly there, and it broke the back free pretty quickly. This was a corner yesterday, this long right-hander. All the corners here are long, so if it wasn't quite as wet and slippery as it's going to be, it would be tough on the neck and shoulders. It's a real neck stretcher type circuit. And Mansell and others have already said it's going to be a very physical circuit. Ooh, you can see the car there. It just has no grip at all. New asphalt, all the oil's coming to the top. Terrific rainstorm on Wednesday, which dumped a lot of mud on the circuit, which has turned into sand and has now turned back to mud. Oh, well-placed course car there.
Emergency car. That may have been the circuit doctor ready to pull on at the back of the field, as he typically does. You don't want to get very far off the pavement at this track because it is so wet. The ground is absolutely saturated all the way around. The drivers to a man will tell you it is a very, very safe circuit. There's a lot of room to slide if you go off, but you've got big problems if you get off. You will virtually not get back on. To the right of your screen in the red and white McLaren is Gerhard Berger, the yellow helmet of World Championship leader Ayrton Senna just behind. To the left will be the Williams teammates, Nigel Mansell. Behind him, Riccardo Patrese, who won 1 week ago. Here we go in Spain. Slow, red light, and then green light. Oh, you see John Alesi leaping across the racetrack. Michael Schumacher covering the back of the top 3 cars. I think Riccardo Patrese got caught out there. It will be Berger, Senna, and Mansell down to the first corner now. Senna doesn't know if his teammate wants to let him by, and he does not.
Berger certainly had second thoughts about letting him in there, and Senna just went for it, and I think it sort of dropped them back into Nigel's clutches just a little bit. And the other, that looks like Nelson Piquet there. Schumacher.
I believe it would be Schumacher. There's the Alain Prost with Stefano Marin in the Tyrrell just behind. It was a wild start in Portugal a week ago. Nigel Mansell being one of the main culprits fingered by the other drivers. Gerhard Berger was asked what he planned to do with Nigel at his elbow at this start. He said, well, I think we all just ought to head for the grass. And everyone got a big laugh out of that at the drivers.
Schumacher going down the inside of Mansell. Of course, Schumacher, don't forget, is on the Pirelli tires. And the Pirellis have shown here very, very well in all the dry sessions so far. And this causes his bloodletting in a wet race. And there's Thierry Boutsen out of the race. Oh, Terry will be...
And I think he's not the only one. Horse car to the right, going after someone else. Is one of the...
that must be Eric Bernard, because Suzuki failed to make the grid.
So Bernard and Boutsen out of the race.
This is that quick guess, and look at young Schumacher having a go down the inside of the world champion. The greatest accolade that could have... And he's got him on the inside of that long sweeper.
And Nigel got sideways in the background and nearly got caught up by the Ferrari. Now Senna comes back down the inside of Schumacher.
Schumacher not giving up.
In Friday's quick, dry morning session, the first time these cars were on the track, young Schumacher took a Benetton off and rode off his first Formula One car in a huge crash. But it hasn't slowed him down any. Gerhard Berger, first across the stripe in the first Formula One Grand Prix of Spain here at this new circuit.
There you can see the vortex coming off the rear wings. Obviously the air here today extremely humid, and all these cars laying these tremendous series of spikes with cameras going off there. The action going into turn 1. It's one of the Leighton House cars. I think it's Capelli. Whoa, and it's been coming together. Oh, that was a bit touch and go.
I thought for sure we had a huge pile of...
He nearly got nailed then. Capelli will be disappointed. He's had a bad season one way or another.
You can almost sense that everybody really has not gotten themselves calmed down out there. Here's another look from Spanish TV. Spins and just misses Riccardo Patrese by an absolute hair's breadth, and also Nelson Piquet in the second one of the Benettons. Meanwhile, Gerhard Berger pulling out a fairly good lead. Team with Ferrari engines next year, and you're right about Berger, who has been driving really well. He was very tough last week in Portugal. This is that fast right-left sweep down to a slowish hairpin, and this is where Schumacher was all over. No, Nigel comes down the inside. Schumacher's not letting him through. Berger knows he doesn't necessarily need to let Senna by. Ayrton Senna, with that 24-point lead, merely needs to keep his nose clean, score any points he can. If Gerhard Berger can win the race, so much the better. It takes away 4 points from Nigel Mansell potentially, and those 4 points would be all Senna needed to clinch the World Championship today. Nigel driving right around the outside of Schumacher on that right-hander, crossing the stripe for the second time. Nigel will almost certainly put Senna away on this straight as they go down into turn 1, using the draft.
Senna using up all the road, forcing Mansell over onto the wet inside shoulder. What happened? We don't see that.
There is the trio of Senna, Mansell, and Schumacher, nose to tail. Senna pulled away right there in that long, sweeping uphill right-hander.
Gives you an idea of how long these corners are. Terribly tough. Normally, these sort of tires would be incredibly tough. I mean, these sort of turns would be terribly tough on the tires. But all our information from the drivers and from Goodyear is that the cars are sliding so much that they're just not wearing these tires at all. And in fact, all the Goodyear cars here are on a much softer compound than they expected to be. They had to fly them all out, especially from England, over the week to get them here for today's race. Haven't used them at all in any of the practice sessions. Now, as it happens, of course, they're all using wet tires anyway, but you can see that dry line developing, and if it doesn't rain soon, expect some pit stops in the next probably 5 to 10 laps, absolute max.
Goodyear runs an absolutely mind-blowing technical center in Akron, Ohio, where they work on the compounds for these races, and those computers were working overtime to try to predict the grip characteristics of a brand new and totally untested racetrack like this. They sent what they call their B and C compounds, hard and slightly softer, and wound up, as David mentioned, flying in a plane load of special ultra-soft D compounds.
Meanwhile, Gerhard Berger, on the wet weather tires he's got at his command, seems to be streaking away from his team leader, Ayrton Senna, who is being hounded closely by Nigel Mansell. You can see it starting to dry out. Hardly any spray coming off these tires now. The weather here, not exactly a scorcher today, but it's certainly not cold.
A little tactical drift right there from Ayrton Senna, driving Nigel Mansell across the racetrack.
Forcing him down to that wet inside of the track.
Meanwhile, we have pit action as some teams are committing early on to dry tires. There's Alain Prost. Here's John.
Alain Prost came into a stopping area. They had the slick tires out waiting for him, and they are the very soft D compound that Goodyear brought in very late last night. They started fitting those tires at 6 a.m. this morning. The track is quite dry as we understand it. You're going to see a lot of people coming in very soon to get off those wet, very soft, wet tires.
Nigel Mansell all over Ayrton Senna. He has to get past him. You see Senna sliding sideways there. You can bet that one eye is on the racetrack and the other is on the mirrors.
Well, of course, Mansell has more than Senna to contend with, because if Berger should win this race and Nigel comes second and Senna comes third, that pretty well dashes his hopes right there.
The battle continues. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll let you know what happens. We'll take a quick time out from our live coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain from the totally new Circuit de Catalunya. Stay right there. We'll be right back. We are back live in Barcelona, Spain, in the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. There is the leader, Gerhard Berger, who took it at the start. But let's go back just a moment ago when Nigel Mansell put the move on Ayrton Senna. Coming down into turn one, they went wheel to wheel, and look how close those tires got together. You cannot touch wheels in Formula One. Senna locked up the right front, and then he tried to come right back at Mansell, but he couldn't do it.
I was going to say, it wasn't over then. Senna went right round the outside of Mansell on that next little left-hand sweep, but couldn't quite pull it off.
We should point out the drivers' meeting this morning was very stormy. There's been a lot of tension building in Formula One. The drivers filed in. Gerhard Berger, the pole sitter, took a playful tap at Nigel's injured right ankle, and Nigel went bonkers, we are told, pinned Berger up against the wall. When that was all settled, they started the meeting. Nigel leapt to his feet and said, let's start naming names when we start talking about rough driving at the start of races. At that point, Ayrton Senna got to his feet, and chaos broke out. So there was a lot.
Very normal to me.
Right. There is a lot of tension out there, no matter what the drivers tell you.
This is the corner where there you see that streak of cement dust on the right. This is where yesterday afternoon Senna completely ruined qualifying for everybody, and I think we saw rain on the lens of that camera. Half the field has come in and changed from wets to slicks. These two haven't yet. But we're told that, in fact, there's a few spots of rain falling again. It's going to be one of those dodgy afternoons. I remember mid-Ohio, 1971, 4 pit stops, 4 lots of tires, because I was always just out of step with the weather. This is a tricky corner. This is what I mean about 17 corners as opposed to 13. When we see that lovely balloon shot that we've got, you'll see that these corners subtly change shape halfway through, and you could really call it 2 corners as opposed to 1. These two here, real fast, downhill. slip it up to 5th here. Just a light dab on the brakes, out onto the main straight. Very, very fast exit. But you can see the width of that runoff area. The drivers feel very confident here. A lot of runoff area. Well graveled, beautifully done, beautifully manicured. And when it's finished behind the grandstands where we are, it's going to be absolutely a showcase. The only downside from a racetrack point of view is they put all these lovely corners in. Great to drive, tremendously fulfilling to do a good lap.
Mika Hakkinen in the Lotus into the tire wall. Meanwhile, here comes young Michael Schumacher for his tire stop. Here's John.
The Ferrari lads jump out of the way. Schumacher gets the car sideways under braking. I'm taking a look at the rain tires, and they are a bit knackered, but they are nowhere near from being totally used up. These are the Pirellis. We have had 4 cars come in for the slick tires to change off of the rain tires to the slick tires, and as soon as those cars came in, it started to rain. A 6-second stop down here in the Benetton pit.
The flagman there letting Schumacher out, as you saw, backing up. He wasn't about to fall for the same trick they fell last week in Portugal and let his man out before he was dead sure that everything had been done. He was rapidly backing down the pit lane, Schumacher in hot pursuit.
Let me add one more layer to this tire story. Goodyear's rain tires are being raced in anger for the first time. They were introduced about mid-season. They use a very distinctive asymmetrical design. The channels that the water runs through vary from one side of the tire to the other. They require a different mold for each tire. Both front to rear and side to side are very different tires. This is the first time the drivers have had them on, and so they don't quite know how they're going to react.
Well, having got past Senna, Mansell has not pulled away from him at quite the speed I thought he would, and Berger, in fact, is still 8 seconds in front of this battling duo.
Let's set the field. Having just completed lap number 7, or working on lap number 7, I should say, it is Gerhard Berger by 7.8 seconds over Nigel Mansell, then Ayrton Senna, Ricardo Patrese, Jean Alesi, Martin Brundle, Mauricio Gugelmin having a good drive, Michael Schumacher, who has now pitted and will no doubt drop back, J.J. Leto, Eric Comas, and Gianni Morbidelli round out the top 10. Then Pierluigi Martini, Alain Prost after his tire stop. Alessandro Zanardi running right behind the world champion. Nelson Piquet, Gabriele Tarquini, Michele Alboreto, and Andrea De Cesaris follow.
There you see the track, how it's compressed into this pretty long, narrow neck of land. Just to finish the original thought, there's a lot of corners here, and they're nice corners, but like so many modern circuits, it's very difficult to overtake. The drivers have been complaining a bit about that. The only real place is where we saw Mansell overtake Senna at the end of the straight. Otherwise, the track just moves around so much. It's kind of difficult to pass. But great for viewers, great for the spectators, a tremendous viewing circuit. And it's also compact. You can move from corner to corner and see so much of it. Good race developing between Mansell and Senna. Both these guys on their wet tires. You can see the tread on the tires. That'll be going away fairly rapidly under these dry conditions. They're going to have to make stop Berger's in.
The leader, Gerhard Berger, is pitting. We'll see whether they put slicks on. John Bizignano awaits him in the McLaren pit.
The D Goodyear type compounds are waiting for Gerhard Berger. I'm sure that he is seeing the rubber peel off that front tire. The rear tires also have lost considerable rubber. They just can't run these very soft rain tires in anything but wet conditions. A slow stop for Gerhard Berger. They are trying to make an adjustment to the front end of the car now. This is a lifetime for the Austrian in these pits. They are setting up for his teammates.
John, I think they were trying to take tape off the brake ducts. They may have taped off those brake ducts in the front to keep some of that air from going to the brakes in the cool conditions we have today. We'll find out shortly. Gerhard Berger now out on slick tires.
Gerhard Berger is another guy who you would never accuse of being over-lucky in the last 2 or 3 years. He has had just a dreadful time. At Ferrari, he went for 16 races without finishing a race. This is his first pole position since Phoenix last year, so that's 19 to 29 races. And I don't know, last week it just never seems to just run real smoothly for the guy, and that was a typical example, that pit stop.
He was one delighted fellow when he clinched his first pole since he joined the McLaren team at Phoenix 2 years ago. Gerhard Berger may have seen the lead go by for the rest of the day, but here are the people we're concerned about. Nigel Mansell with Ayrton Senna just behind, and as long as the rain holds off, you can bet these guys will both be stopping for new rubber very shortly. reaching the highest point on the circuit before diving downhill past the pit entrance. And Mansell is coming in. Senna right behind him. We will have both in the pits at the same time. Here comes the race for the World Championship, and it may well be decided in the pits here today, John.
Ayrton Senna sideways as he breaks for his pit. Nigel Mansell stopping perfectly. Both teams trying to do the best that they've ever done, but the last thing they want is a mistake. Ayrton Senna is rolling Nigel Mansell. They're taking that little extra time, a little bit too much time as far as Mansell's concerned. Both cars out, and Ayrton Senna came in second, and he went out first.
And he comes out right ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger, so not will he only have the lead from Nigel Mansell, he will also have a teammate between himself and Mansell. But Berger looks like he wants a round.
Oh, my goodness me.
Whoa, and
Berger getting a bit twitchy there.
You can
Berger
see
having a luxury of at least one lap on the slicks.
he just stepped off that one dry line, and that's all it takes on these slick, treadless racing tires. We'll all take a moment to gather our breath and return to Barcelona, Spain. Stay with us for more live racing. We are back live at the Grand Prix of Spain here on ESPN. You're watching the McLaren Honda teammates. Ayrton Senna in the yellow helmet, Gerhard Berger just behind, working lap number 11 of 65 scheduled here at the new Circuit de Catalunya.
Well, Senna didn't make any adjustments to his car, I don't think, on that stop. It's very hard to tell with Senna when these races start just how much he's playing cat and mouse to the opposition. He let Mansell through, but then Mansell didn't pull away from him. It'll be interesting to see how they both go now on the slicks. And of course, they have got their fingers crossed that it won't rain again.
As you watch the battle going on there for fourth place on the racetrack. Let's get down to the pits now where John Visignano have the tires that just came off one of our contenders.
Ricardo Patrese came into the pits. They did a very fast pit stop. As you can see, the tire man's checking the tires now. This is why you cannot use a wet tire out onto a dry track. These chunks, this is not a defect in design. It's what a dry tire will do to this very soft. Gosh, this tire's so hot, you can't even touch it. This is what brought everyone in the first 10 laps of this Grand Prix.
There we see Berger making the pass on his teammate Ayrton Senna down into turn 1, the one and only place 2 pass here, and it certainly seems as if Berger has got a better setup this weekend than his teammate. He's been quicker all weekend.
In fact, Senna waved his teammate by, so either Senna is playing it really coy today, or he has a problem with that race car.
There's Mansell coming up to catch up to Senna again, being closely followed by Schumacher, who also, of course, is down on slick Pirellis. And the Pirellis do seem to be working here quite well.
Earlier this weekend, both Senna and Berger admitted that they are very, very tired at this point of the season. They've been driving virtually every day since the beginning of the year. Now there is Nigel Mansell being pressed by one of the Benettons.
That's Schumacher.
That's Michael Schumacher right there. As Berger, then Senna, then Mansell make their way by, John has a comment.
If you're wondering why Ayrton Senna may be slowing slightly on the track, it's because when he comes by here, he has a high RPM misfire. And on this long straightaway, that's got to be stealing time. As soon as he gets up to the higher RPMs, nowadays almost 14,000, I'd say between 12 and 14, he has a very severe misfire. Let's hope it goes away. It might just be some wet wires, and they could dry out.
Well, that's certainly not like a Honda, but I must admit that when you and I were watching these guys on the track on Friday, he had a misfire. And certainly seems to be a problem they can't get over, and Mansell is going to whistle by him, and Schumacher could get them both.
Not as Senna has anything to do with it. He's all over the racetrack trying to keep Mansell behind him. The Englishman has passed the Brazilian once already today, and Schumacher now pulls up to Mansell's gearbox. As you look down live from high overhead, tickets for this race ran from roughly $25 to $160 American, but they still have a large crowd here, helped no doubt by the fact that there is a railway spur next to this racetrack, and there are free trains running out from Barcelona. You're on.
Here we see it from Schumacher. In front of him, Nigel Mansell, just in front of them both. Senna. Now, Senna is tremendous at holding people off, but I don't know about holding people off for 40-odd laps. Schumacher trying to go around the outside of Mansell. Can't pull it off. Track still slippery offline, of course.
Very slippery.
Doesn't seem to worry young Michael Schumacher too much. There we see the first of the Ferraris. That's Alan Prost. Controversy surrounding both him. Is that rain spots or oil spots off Mansell?
Could be water or something
rain,
just being kicked up off the racetrack, but it may be. Senna spins. Senna spins, and he is off, and he may or may not be able to get back on. Please stay with him. It looks like he will.
Yep. My golly, he was lucky there. Both he and his chief rival, Mansell, missed it by an absolute hair's breadth. Here we see it.
On the power, maybe a little too quickly.
And he does a backward slot there right between those two guys.
Off the racetrack, but onto the sod that lines it. He was able to get back on. Here's one more look. He snapped it into reverse. He was actually backing that car up. If I can't get Mansell one way, maybe I'll get him another, he might have been saying. And so Gerhard Berger now has an enormous lead. I'd make it well over 10 seconds over Nigel Mansell. And he is about to overtake Michele Alboreto. John is in the pit lane. Are you getting rained on, John?
We're getting rained on quite heavily. The grandstand across from me, everyone has taken out their umbrellas. The wet gear for the mechanics is back on their backs, and we have stacked rain tires sitting in everyone's pit. What's the backside of the track look like, David? And can you tell someone what a nightmare it is when those front wheels go off the ground due to the wet conditions on these slick tires?
Well, it looks pretty good online, but it's obviously quite damp offline. But of course, there's that sprinkling bit, the bit I never did like much. When it just starts to sprinkle on an already, you know, slippery type of track. Yeah. And Gerhard Berger's got about a 5-second lead on Mansell at the moment. Even the helicopter shot looks like the lens is sprinkled. Gerhard giving the car a bit of a twitch there as he came onto the straight. You can see it's fairly dry there. No spray coming out at all. But
Mansell is closing at a phenomenal rate. He may not have been 10 seconds behind before, but I'd make his lead 2.5 seconds or so right now. He is rushing up from behind the race leader Gerhard Berger. With 14 of 65 laps complete, it is Berger, Mansell, Schumacher, Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, and Martin Brundle in the top 6 points-paying positions. Then Ayrton Senna, Jean Alesi, Andre de Cesaris, and Ricardo Patrese. The Pirellis are out here in Spain. We are back at a great Spanish Grand Prix here on ESPN. Coming up later today, however, more live racing action at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the NASCAR Winston Cup Tyson Holly Farms 400 as Harry Gant goes for 5 Winston Cup victories in a row. 1 p.m. this afternoon, live here on ESPN. Right now, Gerhard Berger leading this race has Nigel Mansell just that far behind him. Mansell needs to get out front and win this race. Ayrton Senna, his rival for the championship, has already been off the track once, but he is back on. Senna running back in the 6th spot right now, and that would be a gap of 9 points in the championship, which is exactly what Nigel needs to do. Make up more than 4 points here today.
There you can see that even these slick tires are starting to show signs of being wet, obviously raining quite heavily. The track looking unbelievably slippery. All these cars slipping and sliding around out here tremendously, but Nigel is certainly making the most of it. Look at him catching up. He's going to go right around the outside of Berger.
Nigel seems to be able to run just about anywhere he wants to on the racetrack. Despite
the Williams chassis, I think this year has clearly showed its superiority over the McLaren, but usually conditions like this tend to sort of level things off a little bit, but boy, they certainly haven't leveled off Nigel's driving. Look at him.
He has not been sleeping well, he said, since the events in Estoril, and who can blame him? He then banged up that ankle playing soccer with a bunch of Formula One press and photographers. We sent our associate producer, Doug Blackman, out there to protect him, but he didn't. Nigel came back limping, but with 2 goals to his credit. And as we mentioned, Gerhard Berger tried a little love tap on that sore ankle this morning, and Nigel just about took his head off, we are told.
Interesting thing on the engines there. Nigel used the draft on the McLaren down the main straight, pulled up alongside to try and make the pass, but it's quite clear that right at the end of the straight, the V12 Honda had just a little bit more oomph. So still, the Hondas have got good power. Of course, it may be they haven't got quite as much downforce as the Williams has got, which which would explain why the car, the Williams, is obviously quicker around this track too, which is a real high downforce type of circuit.
Working lap number 17. It is Berger, Mansell, Schumacher still listed, but 9 seconds back now behind Mansell. Then Alain Prost right on Schumacher's gearbox, followed by Ayrton Senna now in 5th position. John Alesi in the Ferrari is up into 6th. Then Nelson Piquet, Andrea de Cesaris, Ricardo Patrese, and Martin Brundle filling out the top 10, followed by J.J. Leto, Gianni Morbidelli, Mark Blundell, Alessandro Zanardi driving well in his debut in Formula One. What a way to do it on a wet day here in Spain. Eric Comas, who was so quick in the morning warm-up, then Maurizio Guglielmin, Pierluigi Martini, Emanuele Pirro, Gabriele Tarquini, and Michele Alboreto, 20th.
Now again, use the draft down the straight. As it dries out a little bit again, the McLaren seems to come back slightly into his own. Gerhard Berger said that this circuit wasn't really his type. There was no very difficult corners, and he kind of likes to get himself a bit out of shape, and he didn't think this was quite his type of circuit.
Interesting rumor floating around Spain regarding Nigel Mansell, who has already signed up for next year with the Frank Williams team. Rumor has it that Ferrari and its sponsors are prepared to offer Nigel Mansell the equivalent of $17 million to come drive for Ferrari again. He had 2 years with them, ending last year. And now Ferrari would like to have the man that Tifosi, the Ferrari fans around the world, call Il Leone, the Lion.
Prost, of course, wants to go in the worst possible way. He has a binding contract with Ferrari. Ferrari sort of want him to go, but they don't want him to go politically. And somebody is going to have to find some large amounts of dough to buy him out. And as you say, the rumor is that Ferrari would like Nigel Mansell to come back. He, of course, has just signed to drive for Frank Williams. Berger putting just a bit of daylight between himself now and Mansell. Mansell using every... This is a quick bit of track, this.
Sweeping right-hander here, as David said, just a dab on the brakes and then back on the throttle as quick as you dare on a track like this. Nigel getting close. You can see Berger's helmet tip as he glances in the mirrors. Condensation streaming off those rear wings in little wing-like vortexes. Trying to get that close to a man to be able to pass what is essentially an equal car in these conditions, an ice rink of a racetrack. After 18 laps of hard racing, Mansell looks to the inside, but it's too wet.
He's having a real serious thought about going around the outside in a minute at one of these corners.
The car twitched again to the Williams.
You can see that bit of dry line there. It wouldn't take a lot of rain to get rid of that. The circuit here seems to hold the water longer than most, too. The Goodyear people decided this morning that they couldn't believe how it didn't dry out during the warm-up.
And Nigel drops back just a little bit.
Great ploy of Nigel's that. He drops back, lulls the guy in front to a false sense of security, then really nails him on a quick run-up and tries to commit himself to pass and does it.
That's okay when you have the whole racetrack to use. Today, it's hardly that. The racetrack is about 12 yards wide at its widest, which is certainly enough for drivers like these guys. When it is dry, we'll see if Nigel Mansell's up to it when it's wet. He has a special audience today. All of the top brass from Renault, who make his V10 engine, are here, including the Director General and the President of the company.
Director General, mon brave.
Plenty of top brass here. In fact,
we've been using our Renault rental car this weekend, rushing back and forth to our hotel, which is a mere 90-odd kilometers from the racetrack.
Well, now. Sorry about it. You could be in North Wilkesboro today.
As the track continues to dry, Berger seems to be able to put a bit of daylight between himself and Mansell. It's quick into this bit though, Mansell, isn't it? Long downhill. This is a lot more steeply downhill than it looks, and this bit here is really steeply downhill to this, probably the tightest corner here. This is where Senna blew up yesterday. Accelerate down here, a little tiny flick to the right, then this much tighter left-hander, another right-hand flick there, And then this one is a real gutsy corner. Oh, that's a good view of it. Very, very fast. Run along the top. This is all uphill. Now it's flat as they go through this right-left flick.
Downhill
starts
here.
to go downhill again to this tight corner. There you see what I mean about starts off real tight, unwinds a little bit. As they come up to this left-hander. This left-hander was giving the right-hander was giving a lot of trouble yesterday. The front end of a lot of the cars were bouncing there badly.
Now there is the other best battle on the racetrack. Ayrton Senna trying to hold off Jean Alesi for 5th place. There have been no other significant changes on the track. Berger, Mansell, Schumacher is closing in on Mansell, however. Then Alain Prost and this battle, Senna and Alesi. Nelson Piquet about another 5 seconds adrift in the 7th spot.
And Senna and Alesi, in fact, are both catching up Alain Prost in the other Ferrari. So that should be very exciting when they all get caught together. Another lapped car about to be caught up by this dynamic duo at the front. Mansell again putting the pressure on now. Up the inside.
Underneath, and he's on the wet. Berger will hold him there. Berger loses it. He lost the front end. Mansell got by. Mansell is now the race leader. Nigel Mansell giving it everything he has.
And Schumacher's caught up with this group again. Schumacher must have had... Here we see it again. Did they touch wheels? No?
No, I don't think so.
No, he didn't. He got over too far on the wet himself. Boy, that Williams car and Mansell, just here we see it from above.
Dueling Zambonis on an ice rink in Spain, side by side. Berger actually hooked inside. Now there is Schumacher off the track and back on.
Oh, crikey, he had him right within his grasp. He was right there.
That's Senna and Prost flashing by. 5th and 6th place. Now 4th and 5th with Schumacher having dropped back. And that is exactly what Nigel Mansell didn't want. He wanted that aggressive young German Schumacher between himself and Senna to take away points. There is Schumacher spinning behind Berger.
He was trying to get around Berger.
I can't believe he got back out of that gravel trap. Here's what it looked like from Schumacher's view.
Locks up the fronts, no directional steering. Let you put off the brake, lad, and it will go round. When he kept the engine running and all that, because that's the other thing with these Formula 1 cars. If you let the engine stop, you've had it. Because it will not start again. Unlike IndyCar racing, kart racing, they don't come and fetch you. You're stuck.
We are 1/3 of the way through the Grand Prix of Spain, run for the first time at this circuit, about 12 miles from downtown Barcelona. Gabriele Tarquini there in his new ride in the Fundamental car. That was once the Osella team, and that's where Tarquini began his Formula 1 career. Or at least he has spent some time with Osella before. Oh, and Berger overshot the corner. It's not his fault. It is wet out there, folks. And Tarquini gets him right back. What was the last time a Fundamental or an Osella passed a McLaren? Heady stuff for Gabriele Tarquini today.
And there's Alain Prost coming into the picture now. Not so far behind. 7 seconds behind Berger on the last lap. With all that slipping and sliding around, probably even closer than that.
There is Nigel Mansell, who now has what he needs. He needs the lead, but he needs help too. He needs Ayrton Senna to be pushed back out of the points for the World Driving Championship to go on to Japan in 3 weeks. Stay with us. Back live at the Circuit de Catalunya, just outside Barcelona, Spain. There you see defending world champion and world champion-elect, I guess you might say, Ayrton Senna, presently running in 4th position on the track behind title rival Nigel Mansell, teammate Gerhard Berger, and former arch-rival Alain Prost. Behind him is Prost's Ferrari teammate Jean Alesi, working very hard to put Senna down another spot. Mansell flashes across the start-finish line to complete lap number 23. While things are fairly stable, we'd like to show you what the drivers have to say about this new circuit.
Many corners. We have many corners in this circuit. The latest fashion is to do circuits with a lot of corners. And sometimes this is not good, especially for overtaking. And I think there is only one place to overtake, that is the end of the long straight. It's for the first time to make a circuit like that. They did a fantastic thing because for the safety is very nice, and it's not bumpy at all, just a little bit in some corners.
It's a very good circuit. It's nice and flowing. There's not many places you slow down. There's a couple of corners where you need some major commitment, mainly the one coming onto the pit straight. and they've done a very good job. I mean, in a short time, the circuit's fantastic.
It's not an easy track. It's difficult in 2 or 3 places, but it's wide enough to overtake other cars, and except 1 or 2 corners where there is some little bumps, otherwise it's very good.
I enjoy driving it very, very much. It's nice. I mean, everything's been well done. It's nice, very nice.
Well, the last man you heard from, Terry Boutsen in his Ligier, went out on the first and second lap of this race, so I don't think he likes it quite so much. There is his teammate, Eric Comas. And there is Ayrton Senna in the red and white McLaren, trying desperately to hold off Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. If the race ended right now with Senna running in 4th position and Nigel Mansell first, the difference in the World Championship would be 15 points with 2 races to go, and Nigel Mansell would be alive in the championship. The line continues to dry out. There is no rain falling at the moment that we can tell. There is Senna going around a slower car. I mean, Berger going around a slower car.
That's Minardi. I think that's the Minardi of Morbidelli. No, and that's
Berger. That's Pierluigi
Martini and Emanuele Pirro in the Dallara. They're in a good race. I'm surprised they're that far back. There is Andrea De Cesaris. Is that Andrea De Cesaris in the Jordan? Or is that Zanardi?
I believe that might be Zanardi. There is Michele Alboreto, whom you also just heard from, lauding the racetrack. Looks like maybe a fire in that Ford Cosworth engine.
Eric Comas about to be put a lap down by Nigel Mansell. Comas, 4th fastest in the warm-up this morning in the wet. He probably wishes it was a bit wetter than it is, actually.
That battle between Martini and Pirro was for 16th in the race, and they were being lapped by the race leader, Mansell. I don't see a rain light on the back of Nigel's car, and that's a requirement in wet conditions. Let's look a little closer. No, no light at all.
I don't think I know. Have any of them got lights on? I don't think it's wet enough.
They started the race with lights on. Front straightaway just about dry. It's about 3/4 of a mile long.
Oil flags being waved there furiously.
A lot of grit and sand on the track in that first corner, too.
Nigel Mansell coming up on Eric Comas. This corner they're going through is called Repsol. There's another view from Schumacher, who's struggling again. He's now only a second behind Jean Alesi, which means he's only a second point. 3 behind. That in front of him is Alesi and Senna. And he was right with them before, spun it away, and has clawed his way back. He's having a very eventful day, as young Schumacher, because he must have spun earlier on. He was right with them, and suddenly he disappeared from our screens for a few laps, but he's right back again. So he's making work for himself, there's no doubt about it. Had a great compliment played him to this weekend, Ayrton Senna, that said that he thought that he would be incredibly tough competition if he just stayed calm. That's all he needs to do, keep his head about him, and he could be a big threat to our major names, Berger, Mansell, and Senna.
You see the blue Ligier of Eric Comas, Frank Williams looking on as his man Nigel Mansell doing everything he can to recapture the World Championship. Comas has been passed by the overall race leader. Gerhard Berger now tries to pass him. 14 cars of the original 26 starters are still on the lead lap of this beautiful new circuit in Spain. Stay with us. We are back just outside Barcelona, Spain, with continuing live coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain, 14th of 16 rounds in the World Championship. There you see Gerhard Berger running in second place to this man, the race leader Nigel Mansell, about 2.5 seconds behind. Now Jean Alesi, who is in the midst of a fight for the fourth place with Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, has been assessed a 10-second penalty for some violation, and that will drop him back into 8th place with the penalty yet to be applied.
Because there is a tremendous race going on between Senna, Schumacher, and Alesi. Alesi, in fact, has been assessed the penalty, although he's still in the group.
Here's an odd stat we haven't seen earlier this year. Martin Brundle in the Brabham Yamaha has now set fast lap. That Yamaha 12-cylinder engine is really coming on strong. Just as the Brabham team loses it, it will go for the next 4 years to Eddie Jordan's Jordan Grand Prix team. Earlier we said that young Alessandro Zanardi was out of the race by the side of the road. That was actually Andrea de Cesaris's car. Young Zanardi, at 25 years of age, is still in his first Grand Prix. Poor Andrea de Cesaris was officially the first man to go off this brand new circuit. He was also the first man to go off it twice in 2 days. He is now off it and out of the race. Gerhard Berger trying to keep the banner high for the...
Ooh, Zanardi not giving up easy there to Gujamin, trying to go around him in the Leighton House car. And right behind them is Nigel Mansell,
the race leader.
Trying to put him a lap down.
You can bet in the driver meeting this morning, after all the heated words were exchanged, the drivers were warned very seriously not to get in the way of the leaders.
There you can see the drying line, which all the drivers are no doubt hoping will stay there for the rest of the afternoon.
Well, you really get a great view of just how fast these cars are going. Now braking hard on a very dry section of track. Let's get more now on the Jean Alesi penalty in the pits with John Visignano.
There are more judges on this Grand Prix circuit nowadays than there are drivers. John Alesi has been registered a 10-second penalty for weaving on the start. Of course, I couldn't see the start, David, but did you see him doing any dangerous type weaving?
Well, he did the usual weave. I mean, last week, Nigel Mansell weaved from one side of the grid to the other, and in fact, pretty well everywhere we've been this year, people have weaved about. It certainly didn't look extraordinarily bad, although I mean, you got to judge these things as you see it, I suppose.
All it did was destroy a great battle for fourth place in this race, and Alesi was in the points at the time.
This is the trouble. I mean, they're watching the tape like we're watching the tape like last week. Nigel Mansell clearly contravened the regulations, or his team did, and if they were going to stop him, they should have just stopped him there. We see Alesi. Of course, a 10-second penalty is not a 10-second penalty at all. It's what, 45-second penalty by the time you come in and go through the pits?
Well, Alesi pit, heads up, John. He's coming through smoking.
Now he's going to be going down the pit lane at 190 miles an hour.
And that'll cost him another penalty. He's back on the track. Huge plumes of flame as he goes up through that 7-speed semi-automatic gearbox in the Ferrari. And so Jean Alesi finds himself in 10th place at best as we approach the end of lap 30, getting very close to halfway. 65 laps to be run in this Grand Prix of Spain.
See, that's another thing. I don't think I mean, in America we have stop-and-go penalties. You know, they bring them in the IndyCar stop, go, and they consider that to be enough penalty because it's about a 15 to 25-second penalty. They gave this guy a 10-second penalty plus the stopping and going. And with the Olivetti Longines that we've got, they could easily do a 10-second penalty without doing all that rigmarole.
We saw the gap from first to second. The number 2 McLaren Honda of Gerhard Berger of Austria. Recently declared unfit for military service in his home country due to a surgical screw that's working loose in his neck after a plate was put in following a severe road accident in 1984. Nigel Mansell has just turned fast lap, but Michael Schumacher is coming into the pits. Here's John.
This is pit stop number 4 in the career of Michael Schumacher. We're seeing the very soft Pirellis come off the car. They look in perfectly good shape, but obviously the young German didn't like them. Very quick split, 9.7. That's a little bit lengthy in Formula One, but it was a very smooth stop. He's back out on the track.
Well, he's had a couple of spins, at least 2 spins, so probably got some flat spots on those tires, which is why he stopped. And did he change compound, or is it the same compound, John?
Exactly the same compound, David. They are running the very soft Pirelli, the 21 type compound. That is equal to the Goodyear D as in Denver type compound, and that's what they put back on the car. As you say, you can't visually see a soft spot, but man, you can wait. I do see a soft spot. I'm sorry. I see one heck of a big soft spot came off the right rear. David, you got very good eyes up there, mate.
Whoa, God, Mansell going down the inside.
That's Mark Blundell, his countryman he's trying to get around. And that Brabham Yamaha, and once again, those Brabhams are not pokey around here today. They blew through pre-qualifying. You can be assured that Brabham will not be in pre-qualifying next year. I think there's a few more points, but I think they'll be out.
And it'll be an interesting combination when we see the Yamaha engine in the Jordan chassis next year. I think Yamaha, like all these Japanese manufacturers, are going to put a lot of effort into that. The engine is getting better and better and better. It's a shame, really, that Brabham have lost that contract, but I believe that Brabham are in all sorts of other problems as well as losing their engine. But it'll be great for Jordan.
Nigel Mansell leads over Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna 4th, Riccardo Patrese 5th, and J.J. Leto, the new 6th place man. Stay with us. Back live at the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, and John Bisignano. We thank you for joining us. The temptation to make jokes about the rain in Spain would earn your disdain, so we will refrain. Nigel Mansell leads Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost about 11 seconds. I'll be done in a minute.
You've been working on that, haven't you? While we're in commercial.
Ayrton Senna now 12.5 seconds behind Alain Prost and rapidly being caught up by Riccardo Patrese, Mansell's teammate.
I think the teammates this afternoon, Senna's into the pit.
Berger, I think.
Berger, I'm
Gerhard
sorry.
Berger is in.
Oh, no, because he'll be under...
Take it away, John.
Gerhard Berger came in and he lost the engine. He has shut the engine down. Oh my gosh, this is the last thing they wanted to have happen. Right now they're talking to him. He knew that there was a bigger problem with the car than just the tires. They changed the tires very quickly. They're going to put it back into the garage. He had to hit about 14,000 RPM on that engine before he shut it down. Gerhard Berger being pushed back into the garage by his team.
Absolute carbon copy of last week. If you remember, he came in and Estoril seemed to be going okay and pulled in and said, nope, it was misfiring, and I just thought it had enough. And Senna's car, we already know, is misfiring. Not a good fortnight, this, for the Honda people.
Well, say you're with the Williams team now. One McLaren is out of the race, which helps your Constructors' Championship hopes, but a driver is out of the race that stood between Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna in the World Championship as far as points go in this race. So, Mansell, with 33 laps complete, leads Alain Prost by about roughly 15 seconds now, with Ayrton Senna another 12 seconds behind Prost. And Riccardo Patrese has now dropped back a couple of seconds once again on Ayrton Senna. Behind Patrese, J.J. Leto is in the 6th and final points-paying stop, while he'll move up to 5th now, with Gerhard Berger dropping out. And Jean Alesi in the other Ferrari will move up into 6th, followed by Michael Schumacher, Martin Brundle, Nelson Piquet, who has made yet another pit stop for new Pirelli tires on his Benetton Ford, and Gianni Morbidelli in the Minardi Ferrari will round out the top 10.
Well, Gerhard Berger's luck continues. There's Alain Prost in number 27. Did I see smoke coming out the back of that Ferrari then? Just a bit of a wisp on the downshift, maybe nothing. Nigel Mansell now can have the luxury of being able to at least relax. I think he's pretty sure that Alain Prost in the Ferrari is not going to be a big threat to him this afternoon. He's 15 seconds behind him anyway, so he can really take it pretty carefully going through traffic. Gerhard Berger's having his visor cleaned. He's not getting out of the car. Swarms of Honda and McLaren personnel. There's Davey Ryan to the right of the picture, the team manager.
I think it gets back to this Constructors' Championship business. There is Nigel Mansell. If they finish in this order, Mansell 1st and Senna 3rd, the gap in the championship would be 18 with 2 races, or a maximum of 20 points to go. So Nigel would still be alive. Let's get down to the pits and John.
As you say, we have 1, 2, 4, 6, 9 Honda mechanics working around the backside of that engine. What they have done is change all the electrics on the car. They have changed both black boxes. This is the engine management system and the mechanism that gives the car all the spark. Now they're going for the spark plugs. This is going to be very, very lengthy stop in here.
You notice the bodywork being held by 2 men. The thing only weighs about 10 pounds. It costs about 1,000 times that much in U.S. dollars. That's the technology of Formula One. Plugs being changed in that 12-cylinder Honda behind Gerhard Berger's head. You can see just how cramped he is in that cockpit.
The entertainment value of Formula One, unfortunately, loses something without having yellow flags, because if this was IndyCar or NASCAR racing, we could have a convenient yellow flag thrown about now to make sure that Berger didn't slip too far behind. There's his teammate Senna slipping back into the clutches of Patrese. He's only 1 second ahead of him now.
Mansell working lap number 36 of 65. He has set fast lap at 1 minute 25.001.
which must be about 100 and something miles an hour.
Compare that with his Gerhard Berger's qualifying lap at 118.751, which is just about 135 miles an hour. So Mansell will be in the high 20s, high 120s, that is.
But it is very slippery.
On board now with, looks like Alain Prost.
You can tell it's Alain Prost and not Jean Alesi because his head doesn't appear in the picture as we go through these corners. If that was Jean Alesi, his head would appear because he's one of the great leaners. Jimmy Clark used to do it, and Jean Alesi does it to excess almost, leads his little old head into the corner.
You can also tell, watch as he shifts gears with his right hand on the column.
This is that long right-hander, uphill.
The shift levers are mounted on the back of the steering wheel. Jean Alesi shifts like a motorcycle rider with a big twist of his right wrist. Prost, just a little touch of the fingers.
Pity they don't stay in the car for a whole lap, really, to give you an idea of what this circuit looks like from the driver's point of view, get some idea of the gear shift points. And Senna now under extreme pressure from Patrese, but we don't seem to be able to stay with that. Here we see it now.
This is the battle we have to see. This is Riccardo Patrese trying to take precious points away from Ayrton Senna and help his teammate as well as his team in the Constructors' Championship. Gerhard Berger suffered a misfire, we suspect, and is out of the race.
Certainly out of the race from a constructor's or driver's point of view because he's lost well over a lap now.
We have to wonder about the health of Senna's engine.
This is that fast rising right-hander, flattens off here. Very fast right-left flick here. Nissan have sponsored that corner. Downhill double apex left-hander.
Patrese can certainly keep Senna busy. He won't really have a passing opportunity till they come off this next complex of corners and hit the front straightaway.
Senna quick off that corner, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the tee. This is the one that Patrese needs to make the best of. Get in to tuck under the draft there. Down the front straight.
About 160 miles an hour at the start-finish line. Close to 200 miles an hour right here. He'll look down the inside and take it. So, Patrese moves up into third place. Back to fourth goes Ayrton Senna, and John is with his teammate.
It was a good race, but I lost a little bit engine performance, and suddenly it stopped 2-3 cylinders to work. And I had to come in.
It seemed like there was a big misfire early on. How long were you out there suffering for?
I lost performance 10 laps before, and then it stopped.
Gerhard Berger, the championship, these have been your best two races. Is your teammate out there going to be able to pull it off? The McLaren seem to have been struggling here all weekend long.
Unfortunately, I'm not lucky this year, but it shows that my performance is okay, and that's important. Of course, it's more important to make points to win the championship or to win races, but to do nothing.
Thank you, Gerhard. Once again, a gentleman in defeat.
Well, he said it there. I have not been lucky. He can say that again. He's had a terrible year. Nigel hasn't had a great deal of luck either, but touch wood, cross your fingers, and all the other things that one does. His luck seems to be changing a little bit today. Alain Prost hasn't had a very lucky season either. Hasn't had a win this year. First time for how long? 10?
About 10 seasons, if I'm correct. A year ago, in this race, was the last time Alain Prost won a race. There's the leader, Nigel Mansell, about to overtake another slower car. You're on board with Alain Prost or Jean Alesi, and we'll be right back. The parking lots are packed around the Circuit de Catalunya in the Catalonian province of northeastern Spain. You're watching live coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain, and there is Nigel Mansell. How many times this year have we seen him dominate races? He dominated in Canada and broke on the last lap. He dominated at Spa in Belgium and broke. He dominated a week ago in Portugal and suffered a pit lane mess up by his team. There is his teammate, Riccardo Patrese, circulating in third position. Nigel Mansell has to be driving with fingers crossed. There is a glimpse back to the reigning world champion and leader in the points in this race, Ayrton Senna, who runs fourth. The gap, if they finish this way, is around 17 points. In fact, it's exactly 17 points if my mathematics are correct. And that's all we need to know. If it is under 20 when we leave this race today and head for Suzuka, Japan in 3 weeks, Nigel Mansell will still be in with a chance at the world title. It would be his first. It would be Senna's third.
Patrese well and truly pulling away from Senna. Senna having a lot of problems here, keeping up. If he's got a misfire, one has to ask oneself if he's going to be able to finish. And just coming into the picture there behind him is Jean Alesi. And right behind Jean Alesi is Michael Schumacher, who's caught up again. So Senna could easily be passed between now and the end of the race by at least one, if not two more people, which would really jeopardize his championship chances.
26 cars started the race. 19 unofficially are still in it. Gerhard Berger, Senna's teammate, the most recent to drop out. Of those 19, 9 are on the lead lap. Mansell, Prost, Patrese, Senna, Alesi, Schumacher, Piquet, Leto, Brundle, and Morbidelli. The remaining cars still running. Mauricio Gugelmin, Alessandro Zanardi, Pierluigi Martini, Mark Blundell, Gabriele Tarquini, Emanuele Pirro, Satoru Nakajima, Stefano Modena, and Eric Coma. You're on board with Alain Prost in the Ferrari. Tight corners coming up.
This is turns 1 and 2. Up to 3, this rising right-hander. Just a little bit of a feather there. This is where Berger and Mansell spun, or where Berger half spun. This is that long right-hander going downhill. Very tight here.
Now we've switched over, I think, to Jean Alesi's car.
Yep, there's the old lean. Fast rising right-hander. This is his fast right and left flick. No, it's not. I got it wrong.
Notice that his driving gloves are sewn inside out. The seams are on the outside so that the driver has the best grip possible. There's Ayrton Senna, passing a dirty spot on the racetrack where Andre de Cesaris' race ended for the Jordan team. There is de Cesaris' teammate, young Zanardi, 25 years of age, doing very well. And there is Ayrton Senna. Ricardo Patrese, who won a spectacular victory a week ago in Portugal, that seemed to be overshadowed by the misfortune of his teammate. Let's get down to the pit lane for a comment from John Visignano.
Bob and David, I have never seen the Williams team cheering so hard for two competitors. Every time Prost and Schumacher come by, they absolutely cheer them on. They want those two cars not to get up to their people, of course, but boy, they want them around Senna. It's the points. They're running for numbers. Everyone's down here trying to calculate what happens if who finished where. They're cheering every time they go by, trying to push them through.
Well, Senna is certainly being wound in by Alesi. Michael Schumacher seems to have given his best of the day. He is, in fact, slipping back just a little bit. I don't think he'll be a threat to Senna. But it certainly looks as if John Alesi will catch him up. Here's Ricardo Patrese, who did just pass Senna and is pulling away. He's now 5 seconds in front.
Ricardo Patrese, part of the oldest driving team in the game right now. Mansell 38, Patrese 37. You ride with John Alesi. And once again, back with Ricardo Patrese as our friends from Spanish television switch us back and forth. Senna about to give young Alessandro Zanardi the thrill of his life. Oh, I thought Zanardi was going to give Senna the disappointment of his. And so Zanardi goes 2 laps down, and the race continues with 43 laps complete. We'll return in a moment to Barcelona. Ricardo Patrese of Italy for the Williams team glances in both mirrors before turning into corner number 1 here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Behind him, teammate Nigel Mansell is running at the tail end of a group of lapped cars, and Nigel does not have a whole lot of patience for guys who are hard to get by at this point in the race. Mansell leads by 15 seconds over Alain Prost in the Ferrari. 18 seconds behind Prost in third is Ricardo Patrese. 9 seconds behind Patrese is Ayrton Senna. And less than half a second behind Senna for 4th place is Jean Alesi in the second Ferrari.
There you see Prost from above. A little puff of smoke again coming out of his car. Schumacher going into the pits again. Is that one of the Benettons? I couldn't quite see who it was.
And Nigel slipstreaming behind one of the Dallaras. I believe that's Emanuele Pirro. There's Martin Brundle in the Brabham going by. Nigel takes the Dallara.
Leto takes it, let him through.
Yeah, J.J. Leto of Finland, who has been fast on this racetrack this weekend.
Yesterday afternoon, he was fastest of the whole session for a long, long time. This is the unofficial qualifying.
20 laps to go. Brundle just ahead in that Brabham Yamaha has shown good legs thus far today. Let's see if Nigel has any trouble getting by him. Martin Brundle will be driving a Jaguar in the finale of the IMSA Camel GT season this year. That race will be coming to you here on ESPN. John Bizignano has news right now from the pit lane.
The Japanese have been all over Berger's engine. They are only down to 7 people now. 2 have gone to look at the computers. They have been working on this car for some 17 minutes. What they're trying to find out is the exact problem with Gerhard Berger's car in case it duplicates itself in Ayrton Senna car. When Senna comes by, you can still just hear that little pop, 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 pop right at the very top of the RPM, and that is exactly how Gerhard Berger's problem started. The last thing they put on the car was new plug leads all the way around. They think that that could be the source of the DNF.
Well, it could be important in a moment. There is Ayrton Senna in the yellow helmet of the red and white McLaren being pursued by the blood-red Ferrari of Jean Alesi.
Well and truly pursued. Ooh, smoke coming out of Alesi's car there.
Uphill now to a right-hander.
The McLaren got away there quick, didn't it? The Ferrari here, quick through the apex. Again, the McLaren eases away on acceleration, but it's just not quite as quick through these quick corners.
Notice McLaren has that rain light shining at the back of the car. They were enlarged this year under the regulations. I don't think Nigel's is shining up there front.
Well, in that case, we should tell the officials, and they could probably disqualify him. It would obviously make things much more exciting for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Slow-moving car. I believe that's a Tyrrell down low. This is the battle for 4th place. Working lap number 47.
Sweeping that long corner, the McLaren of Senna just a little bit of an edge there. Ferrari close up on braking because that's somewhat misleading.
There is Nigel.
You keep on changing all these good shots. Every time we get something good going, they go somewhere else. Sweeps out onto the front straight. That gives you an idea. The lead, he's got about a half a lap lead against Senna and Alesi there.
Just 1 lap ago, Riccardo Patrese set fast lap of the race. So Patrese is running strongly in 3rd position. Alain Prost runs 15.8 seconds now behind race leader Nigel Mansell. Here comes Patrese down the hill. He will flash across the start-finish line. And we will learn how far behind Prost he is. But he is the fastest car on the racetrack right now. The battle continues between Alesi and Senna. We'll be right back. Thanks to Martin Brundle for assisting us with that feature. There you see Riccardo Patrese looping onto the front straightaway.
And really hounding, I'm sorry, not hounding Alain Prost, because that is in fact Emanuele Pirro in front of him. But Mansell is now suddenly stuck another 6 seconds between himself and Prost. Prost has dropped from 15 seconds to 21 seconds in just the last couple of minutes.
There is Alesi trailing the world champion, Ayrton Senna. This battle has been going on for the last 10 laps or so. Alesi will look to the inside, and Senna will just about touch him. I think they did. I think I saw sparks from the wheel rims.
Yep, Senna tried to shut the door, left it just a fraction too late. If you're going to shut the door, you've got to do it before the guy gets there. Here, you see it again.
Oh, what a pass. That might have been engine flame, but gosh, I would have sworn they touched.
Oh, I'm sure they touched. Watch the car bobble here.
Nope. Okay, this may be the view we want. Nope, that was engine flame, but boy, that's about as close as you can get, folks.
Well, I'll say.
Now we'll watch and see how quickly Jean Alesi can pull away from the world champion. It appears he's having no trouble at all.
I would say he'd be able to pull away from him very quickly the way he caught him up.
We are working lap number 51, which means there will be 14 to go next time by. It is Mansell, Prost, 22 seconds now behind Mansell. Then Riccardo Patrese, Mansell's teammate for the Williams group. Then Jean Alesi in the all-important fourth spot as far as Mansell is concerned. Then Ayrton Senna.
This will certainly do interesting things to the Constructors' Championship, the one that John was talking about at the beginning of the show that's so important to people like Honda and Renault.
All points count for both cars. Now we know one McLaren, Gerhard Bergers, is now out of the race. As Mansell has made his way around Gabriele Tarquini, having a great run there for the Fonmedal team. They haven't called their number much this year. Both cars will count, and it appears at this point that both Williams will finish. Right now they are 1-3. That's good for 14 points. And that would close up an enormous amount of the Constructors' Championship. Right now, if they finish this way with Mansell first and Senna fifth, the gap will be down to 16 points as we move on to Suzuka, Japan in 3 weeks. Ayrton Senna runs in fifth. There are 10 points for a victory, 6 for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and 1 for sixth. Senna would gain 2 points for the McLaren Honda team, making their total 116. 14 points earned by the Williams Renault group would put them right in there for the Constructors' Championship as well. There is Frenchman Alain Prost in his Ferrari, world champion 3 times. And here is a look at what happened to, I believe it's Mark Blundell of Great Britain. His Brabham Yamaha, after a great day, finally gave up the ghost in a big way.
Get that oil it's leaving on the track. Crumbs. Well, it certainly did give up in a big way.
And we don't know exactly where on the track that was. Nigel Mansell may find it in a most inopportune way.
Well, let's hope not. I'm sure there'll be flags out there. There were yellow flags being waved.
There's the car right there.
Yeah.
As Alain Prost comes through, trying to extend his streak of victories, at least one in each of the last 10 seasons in Formula One. An amazing driver, all-time leader in victories with 44. But he is the subject of a great deal of controversy at Ferrari. What else is new? That's the way of life at Ferrari. But it has really taken its toll on a very likable Frenchman.
Incredibly debilitating experience to drive for Ferrari, it seems to be. I drove for and with John Surtees back in the 60s when he left in a huff, had the most awful row with them, and they just don't seem to have changed over the years. They have this position of confrontation with the drivers. They feel that gives them an edge in some way, and it just seems the most peculiar thing. And someone like Prost has won over 40 races, by far the biggest score of points in Formula One racing ever. To fall out with him just seems to me crazy.
6 cars remain on the lead lap. The top 6, all the point scorers, are on a lap of their own. Mansell, Prost, Patrese, Alesi, Senna, and Schumacher. Then Martin Brundle, J.J. Leto, Maurizio Gugelmin, Nelson Piquet, after making lots of noise in the morning warm-up, has never been in the fight today. He's had at least 2 tire stops. Johnny Morbidelli, Alessandro Zanardi, Pierluigi Martini, Gabriele Tarquini still in it, along with Emanuele Pirro, Mark Blundell we have just seen drop out. And Satoru Nakajima and Stefano Modena in the Tyrrells are listed running 3 laps down with Blundell, but they might well be out of the race as well. We haven't seen them recently.
Schumacher is now 19 seconds behind Senna, so I don't think he's going to be a problem. And, of course, Alesi is actually catching up Riccardo Patrese, so maybe the Williams guys won't jump up and down quite so much now.
54 laps complete, 11 to go in the first Spanish Grand Prix here at Catalunya. Central government in Madrid with a very distinctive language as well. There you see Alain Prost rocketing around in his Ferrari. Behind this man, Nigel Mansell, the race leader, after a tremendous flurry of dramatic passing and sliding in the early laps of this race. Nigel Mansell took control. He has not he stopped once for tires to go from his wet weather tires to the slicks that have carried him to this point in the race. We have 10 laps remaining.
even the pit stop was exciting because he came in with Ayrton Senna. They came in together. The McLaren team beat the Renault team out of the pits, but even so, he wound him in, passed him, and of course has had a very, very exciting race, pulling away from all his main opposition, including Senna, who's just not had a good weekend at all. He wasn't quick this morning. He was third yesterday in qualifying, and didn't have a very good day on Thursday and Friday when they first came here. Just not been his weekend at all.
There's Ricardo Patrese, the winner 1 week ago in Portugal. He has the all-important third spot, trying to hold those points away from Senna and allow his teammate Nigel Mansell to creep closer to the reigning world champion, that is, in the championship standings, with 2 races to go following today. Japan in 3 weeks' time, and 2 weeks after that we will be in Adelaide, Australia, for the always festive Formula One Grand Prix of Australia final event in the 1991 championship.
And there in the picture, there you see Elise's board, and Ricardo's board. Alesi is in fact just ever so slowly but surely catching him up, but has only got 9 laps left to do it, and as we've seen, passing here is not easy, so catching up and getting by are 2 different things altogether.
Alesi and Patrese have been knocking fast lap of the race backward and forward. Alesi had a moment ago. On this last lap, Patrese reset fast lap, and of course every fast lap will go into the books as the race record, this being the first event here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Mansell by 17 seconds over Prost. 10 seconds further back is Patrese, followed by Jean Alesi, 6 seconds behind Patrese, then 16 seconds back to Ayrton Senna, followed by Michael Schumacher in the 6th and final points-paying spot, 17 seconds behind Senna. We'll be right back. You're riding live with young Jean Alesi of France in his Ferrari. There you see Ricardo Patrese, I believe it, or is that Nigel? Oh, we've got action all over the racetrack. There's Alain Prost making his way past slower traffic.
That's Martin Brundle. And right with Martin Brundle, of course, is J.J. Leto in the Dallara. These guys are racing for position. Now, of course, it may only be 8th, 9th, and 10th, but the fact that those guys at the back there are 8th, 9th, and 10th, but of course the fact is all it needs is a couple of retirements, and suddenly they're in the points, which would make a tremendous difference to the Brabham team, who at the moment have to pre-qualify.
That's right. Even non-points paying positions count in the battle to see who can get out of those 8 o'clock in the morning Friday sessions to make it into the regular practice and qualifying.
Gabriele Tarquini in the number 14 car there, that's the Fond Metal, having a good race, considering that's about the first time that car's qualified for some considerable time. Gugelmin having a go down the inside there.
It gets worse for Olivier Grouillard, the Frenchman who got out of that car. He immediately joined the AGS team, blocked his teammate Fabrizio Barbaza in one of the pre-qualifying sessions, and then over-revved an engine, which was the problem that the Fond Metal team had with him in the first place, being hard on the equipment. So, Olivier Grouillard's Formula One career is not going well this weekend.
But still going better than Bertrand Gachos, who's still in prison in Britain.
There are lots of signs out here. The Belgians supporting their Formula One driver from the Jordan Grand Prix team, who was in prison in England for spraying tear gas in the face of a London cabbie in an altercation last December. His replacement, Alessandro Zanardi of Formula 3000 championship fame, doing quite well. Zanardi is still in this race. He qualified. He ran in the wet. He is 11th. Ferrari on the loose. Alain Prost in 2nd place, and after the season he has had thus far this year, as you look at his pit board with the information as to where leader Nigel Mansell is, I think he'll take 2nd place points today. At this point, the guarded judgment of our expert staff is that the Grand Prix World Championship will move on to the Grand Prix of Japan. In 3 weeks' time, we'll be coming to you October 20th, live at 12 a.m. midnight. That's the midnight between Saturday and Sunday, live from Suzuka, Japan. And if you've seen any of the last 3 Japanese Grands Prix, you know you're not going to want to miss that one. October 20th, live at 12 a.m. midnight, right here on ESPN. On the racetrack in the Grand Prix of Spain, there are 5 laps remaining for Nigel Mansell, who 3 times this year has led races only to drop out in the late going. Right now, he leads Alain Prost by 16 seconds. Ricardo Patrese is 8 seconds behind Prost in third place. Jean Alesi just 2 seconds now behind Patrese in fourth. Ayrton Senna continues to sag. He is 25 seconds behind Alesi in fifth. And Michael Schumacher of Germany is running in the sixth position behind Senna, 23 seconds behind the McLaren. The track is almost completely dry now. The cars have burned off about 200 pounds in fuel weight. And of the 26 original starters, 17 are still on the racetrack. Fastest car on the track, Jean Alesi, who has reset fast lap, getting very, very close to a qualifying level performance. The leader, Mansell, has now flashed across the starting line. Here comes Ricardo Patrese in the red Ferrari of Jean Alesi, so we have 4 to go. And you know the Williams team has their fingers crossed. Let's take a ride with Jean Alesi.
And less than 2 seconds in front of him, this man, Ricardo Patrese. Obviously desperate from the constructor's point of view to finish in front of Alesi.
The weather has remained dry since those early sprinkles. John Visignano is down in the Williams garage. What's going on, John?
Oh, guys, the anticipation down here, you could cut it with a sword. Everyone is just agonizing over these next 3 laps. They're showing Nigel Mansell his pit board. The first top numbers, plus 15, plus 13, plus 20, but the one he wants to see is lap 1. They're putting up lap 2 for him. Everybody's happy down here. I saw Sheridan Finn smile. My gosh, the photographers, they're looking ahead for Japan. They thought the championship was going to be over. Right now, it's very, very much alive.
With 3 laps to go, Sheridan Finn, commercial director for the Williams team, kind of guy that never smiles unless he meets a prospective sponsor.
And of course, obviously winning the World Championship and the Constructors' Championship would make meeting those sponsors much, much easier.
Ooh, Nigel Mansell trying to get around Emanuele Pirro's Dallara there. Not the time of day to be taking chancy passes, Nigel. The points gap from Senna to Mansell in the World Championship is 16. Assuming they finish in this order, Mansell first and Senna fifth.
There'll be a lot of hard words in the McLaren-Honda compound tonight, and of course the next race coming up in Japan, as you say, on the 20th of Japan, is right in Honda's backyard. The track is surrounded by factory, and it is in fact owned by Honda, the track, and of course they want to see their man do well there, and of course they'd love to see him clinch the championship, but it's going to be very difficult to do.
That track will be surrounded by people as well. We hear that there are 120,000 tickets on sale for that race. There were 4 million applications for those seats. They are probably lined up outside the gates at Suzuka right now, knowing that Nigel Mansell is keeping his title hopes alive with 2 laps to go here in Spain. Here comes Alain Prost in the 27 that is so associated with Gilles Villeneuve of Canada among the Ferrari faithful. Prost is second, Patrese third, Alesi fourth, Senna fifth, Schumacher sixth, and they remain the only cars on the lead lap.
Michael Schumacher's had an absolutely astounding career, set the world on its ear in practice and qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix, was very unfortunate to break the clutch. Had all the controversy 2 weeks later when he jumped teams and went from Jordan to Benetton, and immediately finished 5th at Monza, then 6th last week in Estoril, and looks like he's going to finish 6th today, which jumps him up to 12th equal in the World Championship standings, having only done 4 races, one of which he didn't even finish.
Sad that Minardi Ferrari has now given up the ghost.
He was in 9th spot too. It looks like a tyre let go. See all that tyre all over the track there? Like an interstate.
Morbidelli out will move Alessandro Zanardi up into 9th position in his first Grand Prix. Talk about Michael Schumacher. Zanardi is a man to keep an eye on.
Somebody else just stopping there that Nigel whistled by. Pulling over they were.
There's some of the cement dust left from Ayrton Senna's enormous engine explosion. Whoa! That's one of the other Minardi's. That's Pierluigi Martini has lost the right rear suspension. Oh, imagine the emotional ebb in the Minardi garages in the last lap.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're spending tens of millions of dollars just matched yesterday. Takes the checkered flag for his 21st Formula One victory, and there is the happy crew at Williams. What a week they've had. The heartbreak of Portugal to the ecstasy of Spain. And Alain Prost, give him credit. A second-place finish and 6 points, followed by Riccardo Patrese and more points for the Williams team, who will draw close to even with the McLaren Honda boys in the Constructors' World Championship.
Well, the Ferrari hopes and will be just buoyed immeasurably today. This is the best performance from the Ferrari team for a long time.
15 points, but it will be 16 as we move on to Japan. Stay there. We are back live. There is the face of Frank Williams, mentor of the Williams team, and John Visignano is with him.
Frank, congratulations. This has to lift you out of last weekend's problems. Great success here. What brought it together?
I think Nigel. I mean, Nigel's a very resilient man. He's drove truly brilliantly today. I think he's driving like a true world champion. Championship for him is still a possibility. And for the constructors, it's still, we're ahead today with 2 more races. We'll have to wait and see.
But a betting man who has seen this race, you people can go out front, you can lead, you can pass, you can do everything now. The McLarens are struggling. If I was a betting man, I would be with you, Frank.
We'll talk about it after Australia, John, yeah?
Absolutely. I'll put a $5 on you.
$5 or £5?
£5 for you, Frank, of course.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Spoken like a true team owner. $5 or £5. Congratulations to Frank Williams and the team. Here are the results unofficially. Nigel Mansell with his 21st career win. Alain Prost second for Ferrari, followed by Riccardo Patrese, Jean Alesi, Ayrton Senna in the lone McLaren finishing, and Michael Schumacher in the 6th and final points-paying position. 6th through Senna, 85. Nigel Mansell, 69. Just 16 points separate them as we move on to Japan. Riccardo Patrese's 3rd place gives him 48 points, followed by Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost, and Nelson Piquet. The all-important Constructors' Championship has changed.
Started off damp, got drier, so we had the excitement of pit stops. Unfortunately, the Pirelli guys had to make 2 or 3 stops. Schumacher somewhat blotted his copybook, even though he came in 6th getting points. Had a great race, but if he had a couple less spins, he would have probably been right up there with Alesi and maybe even Patrese. Good day for Williams, a good day for the World Championship, and a good day for TV.
Absolutely. Making up for Portugal, we now can go to Japan with the title still at stake. There is Nigel Mansell accepting the accolades of a huge crowd here, despite fairly miserable weather in Spain. And you can bet he is a very relieved man. There is Jean-Marie Balest at lower left, the 71-year-old Frenchman who runs the FISA, the sporting governing body for motorsports worldwide, a man up for re-election soon, and there is much controversy surrounding him. There is Alain Prost, a happy man, I'm sure, for his 3rd place. To the right, Riccardo Patrese. Make that Prost 2nd and Patrese 3rd. As Britain's national anthem plays, we will bid you adios from Spain. I'm Bob Barsha for David Hobbs and John Visignano. Thank you to our crew for helping us bring you all of the European Formula One races this year. Don't forget to join us in 3 weeks' time, October 20th, live at midnight for the Grand Prix of Japan from Suzuka, Japan. So long, everyone.